In the meantime, the French film icon Gérard Depardieu has been found guilty in the sexual assault trial against him. The actor got an 18-month suspended sentence in one of the highest-profile cases of MeToo in France. Depardieu had denied any wrongdoing, and he says he will appeal. To talk more about all of this, I'm joined by our Solange Mougin. Solange, the verdict was handed down earlier today. Tell us a bit more about the details of what the court decided.
Well, the Paris Criminal Court, they found Gérard Depardieu guilty of sexually assaulting two women on a film set in 2021. He was sentenced, as you said, to 18 months in prison, but it is a suspended prison sentence, so he will not go to jail. But he was convicted of groping and assaulting a set designer and an assistant director during the filming of Les Volets Verts, or The Green Shutters. And he will be added to a sex offenders register in France. Now, Depardieu has denied any wrongdoing and said during the trial that he is of the old world, that he doesn't believe placing your hands on a person's buttocks without their consent is akin to assault. So this verdict underlines the law, that feeling up a woman, trapping her between your legs without consent is against the law, regardless of who you are. Now, Depardieu's lawyer, he said that he will appeal, while the prosecution has also hailed this as a victory for all women.
What's important, and what we've learned from this decision, is that for this tribunal in Paris, an accusation means a guilty verdict. As soon as you're implicated in a sexual assault case these days, you're automatically convicted.
It's a great decision. It's recognition for Depardieu's victims. It's the victory of two women on a film set. But it's also the victory of all women behind this trial.
Now, in my view, there are a couple aspects of this case that warrant some digging. The first is Depardieu's own trajectory and the years that it took for him to be charged and found guilty. Over 20 women have accused him of sexual misconduct spanning decades, but most of those cases were thrown out because of the statute of limitations and other reasons. There is also a rape case in the books waiting to move forward in his regard. So this says something about how sexual assault cases are treated in France, and his defense highlights that. The other aspect that is central to this case, in my view, is what, if any, conclusions we can draw about what it says about the French film industry and its treatment of women and of abuse. With the verdict falling on the same day as the Cannes Film Festival, and with a number of big heavyweights in the film world having come out in favor of Depardieu, like Brigitte Bardot, Fanny Ardant, but also many stars against his conduct, Depardieu's case begs for us to ask bigger questions, such as, has the French film world been tacitly accepting abuse by turning a blind eye to it? Has it encouraged abuse in the name of artistic genius? Is that still going on today? Is there a larger societal problem in France regarding what some consider seduction, and some don't, and the law doesn't? Is this a generational thing, or is that an excuse in and of itself? All of this came to the fore with Depardieu's trial in France's rather tardy, late taking on of the MeToo movement, which again began 7 years ago.
Indeed. Now, Depardieu's trial also exposed some of the judicial problems here in France when it comes to these abuse cases.
Yeah, it did, both on the macro and the micro levels. For the smaller Depardieu element, this case exposed not just the sexism in the French film world, but it also raised questions about it in the judicial world. Nearly 200 lawyers wrote a petition in Le Monde calling out Depardieu's lawyer and his misogynist and sexist treatment of the female lawyers in the case, with Jérémy Assou's quips to them like, go ahead, cry, what's with that hysterical laugh, rampant feminism, he said. And on top of this, there was the drilling of the victims, with him yelling things like, Madame, we do not believe you, and insinuating that real victims, in his words, don't act this way. Now, Depardieu's lawyer, in turn, wrote an op-ed to the 200-strong petition saying that just because women were not historically listened to, that does not mean they don't lie. So I mentioned this side of the judicial this sideline fight because, one, the court called out this type of sexist behavior in their verdict with a fine for, quote, secondary victimization, and two, it also exposes a larger picture that's concerning when it comes to trying sexual violence cases in France. Not only how the difficulty of taking the stand about a sexual assault, and how hard that can be for victims, but also even how female lawyers can be belittled in courtrooms without very strong sanctions immediately. And also, though, the fact that very few cases very few cases go this far. According to last year's numbers by the French Institute of Public Politics, 86% of sexual violence cases were dismissed in France, and some 94% of rape cases were thrown out. This report pointed to a number of reasons for this: a lack of proof, a sharp increase in the volume of cases that the judicial system just can't keep up with. So the upside is that more people are coming forward, but the downside is that the police and the justice system, well, they are regularly failing victims.
Solange, let's talk a bit more specifically about the film word itself and what this verdict says about the French film industry.
Yeah, the timing is purely coincidental with the Cannes Film Festival, but the French film industry is in the midst of a reckoning of its past and its current treatment of sexual assault. Last month, the Parliamentary Committee issued a report on sexual violence in the French culture industry, and after 5 months of inquiries, including nearly 90 parliamentary audiences of the testimonies of over 400 film professionals that involved 31 MPs, the committee found that the film, theater, casting sectors, they are fertile ground for what they say is, quote, massive abuse. With dozens of testimonies, the 313-page report found that the sector is akin to a machine that grinds up and spits out talent. Now, the head of the Parliamentary Commission spoke to France 24 earlier today to explain all this.
In the film, music, fashion, dance worlds, there are situations that favor the emergence of violence and protect potential aggressors. Knowing the systemic nature of this, it's not with the Depardieu case that it simply ends. There's a whole system that promotes this behavior.
Now, the National Assembly report issued 86 recommendations of how to fix things, including better gender parity, mandatory contract clauses, a right for actors to review sex scenes, intimacy coordinators on sets. The list goes on and on. But the report reminds us, with, they say, intentional irony in regard to where most sexual abuse cases occur, in the home, that in the grande famille du cinéma, or in the big family of the French film world, abuse was and is too common, and that, like in personal families, it was too often silenced. So this verdict is another line in the sand that things need to change there and elsewhere.
They really do. Thanks so much for that, Solange Mouzin, with that look at the verdict against Gérard Depardieu, who was found guilty of sexual assault.